First off, thank you guys for coming. As we enter into the season, I want to address just the roster. We're coming off a really good summer. With 15 new guys, we had to figure out how can we get these guys on the same page. So we were really intentional on developing on and off the court, the brotherhood that's needed in order to compete in the MAC. And so we really did a good job of making sure that we got the time on and off the court that made sense for us. We're highlighted by some really talented guys. We went an international route with some of the roster building, but some of the highlight guys who are from this area, we have J.J. Taylor, who's a Chicago guy. He was rated one of the top players coming out of high school. We got him transferring in from UCF. Then we also brought in a really good guard by the name of Gianni Cobb, from a local guy from Chicago by the way of Columbia, who I think is going to bring a really intense, fun style of play for us at the point guard spot. And then we rounded out with some international guys. We have a kid by the name of Dylan Guzman, who's really talented, played for the Swiss national team, played on a qualifying team where he averaged about 10 and 5. And then obviously we brought in some other size with our big guys. We needed to really do a better job of what we did in a year past by having guys that can physically go out and compete at this level. And I thought we did a really good job. One, we brought in a kid, Gustav, from Netherlands, who's about 6'9", 6'10", with good length, good size, and mobility. And I think he's going to be a added bonus for, especially where, and more importantly, how we're going to play. Our style of play going into this year, because we have depth along the front line and then also in our guard play, you're going to see us play about an 80-possession game. That's the goal, where we can get out and run and use our size and quickness to do a good job of really trying to put points on the board. And so this roster process was something that we had to take full account, coming off the last 2 years where we were in the injury-plagued season. We had to do a couple things different. One, we had to assess what are we doing in regards to training, because that's very important. And so what we did was we went with the trainers and the strength and conditioning coach, and we tried to figure out why are we getting injured, right? What are we doing as far as duration of practices? What are we doing in regards to recovery? And then before we got the guys back to campus in June, we set out a really thorough plan on, all right, how do we maximize what we have, but also give these guys the time and energy and the resources to really rehydrate, refocus, and be able to start over the next day. So I thought we had a diligent plan going into the summer, and it boded well, where we had, knock on wood, no injuries, where guys got a lot of time to gel, mesh, and really spend the meaningful time in the court versus in the training room. And the same thing took place in the fall, going into preseason. But I think this roster is probably the best constructed roster since I've been here in regards to depth, size, and skill set. Now it's just a matter of continue to do what we need to do in the weight room, do what we need to do in the training room, so we can be really at our best on Tuesdays and Saturdays as we gear towards trying to make it to Cleveland. We have some really good talent in regards to shooting the ball with Makai Valentine, who I think is going to be a 40% three-point shooter. He has great length, size, and athleticism, but he's probably one of the best shooters I've had here, along with Dylan, who's a prolific shooter from three. So we have two bookends. Now we just got to make sure with J.J. Taylor, who's kind of a unicorn for us in regards to his overall skill set. He has length, he has size, and he's really a guard masquerading as a four-man. So we have what we need in regards to talent. Now it's just a matter of, can we make it mesh? The schedule that we put together is super competitive. We did a really good job of getting a lot of in-state opportunities, whether it's against Loyola, Chicago, or Bradley. Obviously, the top echelons of those respective leads, so we're going to be challenged. And then obviously playing some national teams like a Wisconsin at Wisconsin, that's going to give us a really competitive on-the-road environment, no different than playing at Toledo or Akron or Kent State, some of the better teams in this league. So we were diligent and intentional on how we built the non-conference schedule to get us ready for December, which is a lot earlier than years past, where we now normally play conference games in January. We're now playing in December. So we just got to continue to stay healthy. Like I said, I like our depth. The guy who I'm truly intrigued by is Logi, who's a 6'5" wingman. out of way of France with a 7-foot wingspan. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to be electric in transition because of his athleticism, his length. He's going to be a difference maker for us. He's still young as a freshman, but he has a lot of experience playing on the international side. So he's going to be a really good player. We also have another freshman, Taj Walters, who's probably about a 6'6", multi-unit guard who can play 3, 4, strong enough, athletic enough to be a difference maker, especially in the MAC. When you see the 4-man who are typically like a Kent State, he looks like one of those guys who can play multiple positions. So I'm intrigued by the roster. I think we're going to be really good. Knock on wood, we just got to stay healthy. With that being said, I'll open up for any questions.
Coach, I know this wasn't the first offseason where you've had to essentially start from the ground up as far as roster building goes. But this most recent time, you've had to re-race everybody. Just how do you approach that part, especially considering that you have to go from zero there?
Well, this one was one of those situations where instead of just going out to get players, we needed to go out and get what makes sense to us, right? And we needed to listen to the training staff, right? We needed to get bigger, faster, stronger. We needed to get durable athletes, right? And so I used that information to go out specifically to get the right type of player. This league is a grueling league, right? A lot of times you're getting worn down. You're playing twice a week, and you may play Kent State and Toledo, the top echelon. So we needed to get talent, and we needed to get athletes who can compete at that level. And so we really was intentional with every guy that we brought in, from the guards, outside of Gianni, who's a 6-foot guard. Everyone else is 6'2" and above. So we have size, and all these guys bring multiple skill levels to the table. So I wanted to make sure that we got versatility, size, and strength, and still have the ability to play fast. And I think with this roster from top to finish, top to bottom, we have athleticism and speed that can compete in the MAC.
And you talk about the steps you guys have taken to, limit injuries, make sure you guys are actually available to play. But when you look at the newcomers you brought in, just how'd you feel about their ability to, stay healthy from their past at their respective schools?
Well, once again, in the off season, two things I think it has to happen, whether they're transfers, whether they're high school guys. I think the component that we missed my first couple of years was from the education side, right? Because in reality, these guys are going to spend more time away from us than they are with us, right? We got 20 hours a week. That's for Courtney. That's 20 hours a week compliance, right, to practice. And so we really spent a lot of time with our strength and conditioning coach to educate these guys, because when they're home and they're respective away from us, they got to get their rest. They got to make sure they hydrate. They got to make sure they're putting the right fuel into their bodies, because it's counterproductive. When we're training, we're playing hard, and then you go out and eat junk food, or you're not getting the proper rest. So we really wanted to educate these guys on the importance of doing these things. So on Tuesdays and Saturdays, we're performing at our optimum.
Now that you've been through a summer with these guys now all together, does anything change for you in terms of, now that you've seen them on the floor, what you can do with them, either offensively or defensively, now that you've seen them actually now in person?
Yeah, I think we're way more athletic than I thought. Certain guys, like a guy like Damar Kelly, who's a transfer, who actually played in the NCAA tournament last year, 6'5", averaged about 8 points at St. Francis. I didn't realize how athletic he was and his ability to be a quick twitch athlete. So he gives us another dimension, because he can play some 2, some 3, some 4 if we decided to play small ball. JJ can, obviously he's not strong in girth, but he's long and athletic. We can play small ball 5. So I think with the roster, with the way it's constructed, on paper you like it, and then you see it, they'll give us a lot more versatility than I expected with some of these guys. Obviously, Laji being a guy who, yet again, he's a guard, but he can play the 4 at 6'5" with a 7-foot wingspan.
Coach, talk about the transition. You mentioned the international players. They played at a high level, played well. How tough is it, that transition from that first year, playing over there to coming and playing D1 basketball?
Yeah, it's always tough, no matter how good they are, right? It's a cultural transition that takes a toll. It's the academic transition that takes a toll. And so the beauty of having a Laji, a Goose, and a Dylan, they don't have to be Superman early, right? We have enough talent, enough experience around them so they can grow into the position, versus now putting a ton of pressure on a guy like Laji. As good as he is, he's still a freshman. There's a language barrier, right? There's a food barrier. All these things play a part into these guys being ready to perform every day. But more importantly, they have their own expectations. A lot of these guys are leaving home for the first time, right? And they have high expectations of themselves. And so not allowing themselves to put too much pressure is important. And also from a coaching staff, I got to meet these guys where they are in that moment. I can't project my expectations onto them. So now it becomes overwhelming.
If you take the first game on the 3rd until the MAC schedule, how much transition you think there'll be in regards to how you develop the roster and people fulfill their roles and even roles changing?
Yeah, I think how we practice is going to be conducive to how we're playing. Right now, we're going to have 11 guys on paper that can play. I can play up to no more than, I don't think a guy would exceed 25 minutes. And so because we have depth, our goal is to wear teams down going into the second half. So we really want to play fast. We really want to be the 80 to 85 possessions per game, which allows us to really use our depth. But practice is super competitive. We're averaging right around that when we do go live. Right, we're on pace to meet our goal in regards to, possessions per game. The things that we have to continue to work on is valuing the ball and rebounding. If we can rebound with the way we get out and run with our athletes, we can play in transition a lot. And that's ultimately the goal, right? The flip side is we want to play teams in a half court, use our speed and our versatility to be disruptive, to create turnovers for us. So I think we can get, with the depth we have, we can probably play 10 to 11 guys. No guy is going to exceed 25, 27 minutes.
And Coach, with all the new players you have on this roster, who do you go to as far as leadership on the roster goes?
It's a multitude of guys. We have Jao, who is a 9-point scorer out of way of Jackson State, who made it to the NIT, won a game against Georgia Tech. He's another a guy who had Big East. I'm sorry, West Virginia was Big 12 experience, right? So I think it's a multitude of guys, and I want everybody to be a leader in their respective spaces, because when it becomes one guy, right, then I think you're letting the other guys off the hook. Everyone that steps on the floor has to bring something to the table to help us be a better program. Thank you, guys.